The start in Belfast and the first full test of the new breed of supercars, including the Metro of Jimmy McRae.
And I think we've just got to take it quietly to begin with and see how the car's going to react, see how the team's going to react.
You'll be quite happy to be third or fourth after the first day?
Third or fourth, as long as there's nobody too far in front. As long as Russell Brooks is not 5 minutes in front, I'll be quite happy.
So what were Russell's plans? Co-driver Mike Broad.
What are your intentions for this event?
Well, I'm trying to get Russell to not to go too quickly on the first day, to be honest. I'd like to be third to sixth on the first day, and the only problem is with these four-wheel drive cars, it's not the matter of four-wheel drive, it's the matter that they've got 200 brake horsepower more than we have. We don't honestly know how quick they're going to go. So obviously we've got to keep the pressure on a bit. But I hope that our strength will be reliability, and even if we get down to Waterford in third, fourth or fifth place, I still think we've got a good chance.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go!
But the man everyone was watching, Finn Hanna-Mikkola, the real star of modern rallying in the Audi UK Short Quattro. But almost right away he was in trouble. He lost 13 minutes on the first stage with clutch problems, then suffered a puncture on stage 3 at Sweathouse. By the fourth stage, Sleeve Galleon, he was back in control, and as the rally progressed through the Glen Dunn stage, he'd settled down to try to regain lost time. Second away from the start, although numbered 17, Swede Kalle Grundle in the works Ford RS200. But again, disaster on just the second stage when he collided with a 15-year-old boy standing in the middle of the stage, and that was followed by a puncture on stage 3, dropping him even further down the field. So how was McRae going to get on at the wheel of the Metro? He got in some practice in Ireland and was soon flying round the course, setting fastest time on the first stage, and by the end of the third stage was 11 seconds up on his works rivals. But he too was having some problems with handling, ploughing into the roadside hedge on the fourth stage, but settling down later to get to grips with the fiery Metro. Russell Brooks was still with the conventional two-wheel drive Manta 400, but it's a car he knows well, and it has a good reputation for reliability, something yet to be proved with the supercars. He held on confidently to fourth place. But the young man to watch was going to be 25-year-old Welshman David Llewellyn in the works Metro. He started cautiously, but soon began to match McRae's times, and it was clear he was going to fight a determined battle. His handling of the car was superb and scarcely put a wheel wrong. But the man providing the home interest was Billy Coleman in the Rothmans Porsche 911. He was delighted with his new car, but described its handling over the many bumps on the circuit as leaving something to be desired. Michael Sundstrom was anxious to recover some of his damaged pride from his accident on the National Breakdown Rally, but he again hit problems in his Peugeot 205, cracking the bonnet on the very first stage and by the seventh test experiencing gearbox trouble. Mark Lovell in the Clubman spec Ford RS200 followed him, while a specially mounted camera would give some interesting pictures from the other Rothmans Porsche of Saeed Al-Hajri from the Middle East.
You would recommend a trip down to Waterford. What about this car boat race we're going to have? Well, I believe that depends
starting with confidence in Belfast and with justification as it turned out, Austin McHale in his Manta 400. He started well but complained about the car hopping over the bumps, so new suspension was fitted and he certainly tested that out later. Hoping for a good result in Group A, Andrew Wood in the Works Astra, but he rolled on the 4th stage when the wheel sheared off in mid-corner. But it landed on its wheels and he continued, albeit 10 minutes down, after changing the wheel and regaining his composure. Previous Donegal rally winner Vince Bonner flew his way around the early stages. So on to the last stage of the first day, Boyd's Autodrome, and a good turnout to watch the cars. First away, Llewellyn to test out what appeared to be a slippery surface. It was certainly wet and muddy, leaving many drivers unsure exactly what tyre combination to plump for. 2 laps of the circuit proved an interesting experience for the huge crowd and many of the drivers, but the rally was spreading out and that was still a treat in store for some. early Saturday morning, and before dawn, the battle has recommenced. But by a more civilised hour, the more sedate location of the Royal Dublin Society showground, and McRae was going well, although he had a departure earlier when he hit the throttle instead of the brake and struck a banking. Harry Toivonen in another 6R4 had problems earlier with punctures, but by the spectator stage at the showground, he'd come to grips with the car and had it nicely under control. And as the sign said, he was really motoring. From there it was on to the traditional Sally Gap stage, and Mick Hale was throwing everything into the long run, which started dry but was hit by rain for the last few miles. Vince Bonner's Ascona was still being plagued by a misfire which had been troubling the car almost from the start, but it didn't appear to do much to slow his progress. Russell Brooks, meanwhile, was lying third behind McRae and Llewellyn as the cars headed towards Waterford and the overnight halt. Calle Grundle was fifth more than a minute later, but only 12 seconds behind Billy Coleman's Porsche. Sundström was in serious trouble again, though, and transmission problems forced the gearbox change, completed in just 24 minutes. But Bonner was now being challenged from behind by Louise Aiken-Walker. Further down the field, Richard Hall was drawing admiration for his handling of the Sunbeam, while Andrew Wood was also drawing the attention of the crowd. After almost a full night's sleep, the drivers prepared for the next leg of the 1,500-mile route. McRae was now leading by more than a minute and a half over his nearest rival, Llewellyn, who'd dropped down slightly, his tyre choice caught out by the changeable weather. Lovell was making good progress and having more luck than Grundle in the other Ford, although the Swede was still fifth. Mick Hale cruised on, content with his placing. Wood too was content, but had lost sight of Group A to Aricola. By late morning things had changed, and Llewellyn was reserved.
I mean, it's such a long way to go. We've over 300 miles, well over half the rally still to do. And as you can tell from Jimmy, that now it's starting to tell on the cars, all this rough, bumpy stuff. And we in fact were very lucky last night. We discovered a tooth missing off the rear diff. So we changed the rear diff last night and lost 3 minutes going into Parc Fermé. So we were lucky that our problem happened in the right place, where Jimmy's hasn't. So it's all about a bit of luck and going well.
Others weren't going well. Mikkola had retired, Sundström's gearbox had seized, and Grundle too was out. But Brooks was happy.
Well, it's going reasonably well. At the moment we're lying third, and maybe some more of the four-wheel drive cars will have problems. Grundle's retired, Sundström's retired, and it would seem that Jimmy McRae's got a problem on the previous stage.
So there was still everything to play for, and Billy Coleman was slightly happier.
We're starting to go well again now, Alister. We dropped a bit of time in the first two this morning, and we've made up about 10 seconds on the last again. So I think we're very much in the hunt still. We're just about 1 minute and 20 from Russell now.
Billy, get in.
Jimmy McRae had arrived, and as co-driver Ian Grindrod sprinted to check in at the time control, it was clear that the Metro was far from well.
happened, Jim?
Oh, we've had gearboxes, big hole in the side of the box. We've only got second gear, so we're going to try and get through this stage and change it. We dropped about 3 minutes in the last stage.
12:37.
So you're well in the field.
I'm afraid so.
Sounds terminal.
It's, if we get through this, we could change it, but I don't know whether it'll make it or not. There's only second gear that's making a hell of a noise.
So you've no oil in the box at all?
944. We've managed to put some in ourselves there, so hopefully it'll keep going. The hole's halfway up the box, so there is some oil in it. But there's obviously lots of teeth and things floating about the box.
Oh, Harry's and
Amazingly, he made it through the stage and the gearbox was changed in a record time of 22 minutes, but he incurred penalties, dropping him to third. Billy Coleman maintained the Rothmans' pace while Wood considered his placing.
Well, you can't catch Penty unless Penty has a problem, unfortunately. But I'm quite sure we can be second in Group A.
Comera Sunday afternoon, and Llewellyn was back in command, but not without problems. A rear puncture on one stage, but still he managed third fastest in spite of also clipping a fence. Brooks was putting on the pressure from behind, but he was still more than 4 minutes adrift of the Welshman. His car was beginning to show the signs of his efforts. Billy Coleman was on the way to a new gearbox in the Porsche, and before long the car was also going to need some attention to the bodywork, the result of an unscheduled manoeuvre in a farmyard. Toivonen had moved up the field in spite of a similar departure down a junction, and was posing a serious challenge to Lovell in the Ford, who was now on another gearbox. McHale had lost time to Toivonen, but was still giving a powerful drive. And the retirement of Louise Aiken-Walker took the pressure off Vince Bonner. With his new gearbox, McRae was back in full swing, but now in fourth place, just 1 second behind Coleman. Agricola continued to dominate Group A and was just outside the top 5, while Wood was going to have to accept second place in the grouping. No such luck for John Price, retiring on a road section with no oil pressure in his Renault 5 Turbo. A full night's halt and Monday morning gave everyone the chance to look at the leaderboard. Llewellyn was back in charge with a 4-minute advantage over Brooks, who was 2.5 minutes ahead of Coleman and McRae. But it wasn't just Llewellyn who'd achieved new heights. The rally now headed across Tipperary and over the Silvermine Mountains, and Brooks ploughed on but could make little impression against Llewellyn's Metro. Coleman was still displaying the battle scars of his previous encounters, but that was of little concern to him as he fought to shake off the Scot on his tail. McRae didn't like the wet, his Dunlops proving fine in the dry or damp, but too hard when really wet. Lovell was going quickly again and quite at home behind the wheel of the Ford, even in the driving snow and rain. Toivonen too was enjoying himself. But McHale had been suffering from slides in the wet. The General Motors quartet of Agricola, Frank Fennell, Andrew Wood and Brian Wiggins were going well. And Richard Hall was still there in the sunbeam. Midnight at the service halt at Balavery, north of Galway, on the long drive north to Belfast, and frenzied activity amongst the metro mechanics.
Very good. I must admit we were a bit lucky on the second to last stage. It was very, very tricky and muddy and twisty and the road very narrow, and we actually lost. Billy Coleman crashed in there, and Jimmy also went off in there as well. So I'm not quite sure whether Jimmy got going or not. We had reports that he got out of the stage, but we haven't seen him since. So and Russell also had a problem with the alternator. So that, in fact, now has given us an 8.5-minute lead. So we have to cross our fingers and hope the old girl will get us to the end.
You've no problems with the car?
No, the car's going perfectly.
Best of luck. We'll see you at the finish.
Thanks very much. I hope so.
As the cars arrive for the vital service, there's concern within the Rothmans camp. Time is going by and there's still no sign of either McRae or Coleman. Anxious moments are spent pacing in the cold and wet. Then the Metro arrives, but it's not McRae at the wheel. Instead, it's one of the service team.
Had a small off at a wall, bent the steering arm, we got it straight, and then on the road section the wishbone broke and we couldn't do anything with it.
So that's
it. That's the end of it.
Out of time?
Yeah, out of time. Jim's on the way to Belfast, and so are we now.
What about Billy?
Billy had a bigger accident in the same stage, not far apart. We don't quite know what happened, but Billy went through a wall and couldn't get it back out. But we haven't seen the car yet because the road was closed and the lads are waiting to go in. Yes, ironic, eh? Both on the same stage. There we are. Just about everybody had problems there. Russell was late coming out as well, we think. But that's the end of that, chaps.
By daylight, things were clearer, not least for Llewellyn, who, with the disappearance of both McRae and Coleman, could safely ease off for the final run home. Which was just as well. The final stages were rough, with broken tarmac, potholes, gravel and mud. For the Welshman, it was a clear run to Belfast. McHale was more than happy too. His tremendous drive had paid dividends and he was rewarded with third place, even if he did make the odd mistake. Russell Brooks couldn't complain either. He'd fought all the way through, but like his earlier prediction, the four-wheel drives aren't, yet at least, dominant. He took the two-wheel drive Manta to an excellent second place, 11 minutes ahead of McHale. Agricola finished fifth and with the Group A title. While Frank Fennell was more than happy to come home in seventh place. But he was being caught by Lovell, who missed out on third place by just 22 seconds. And that fine drive by Richard Hall gave him a fine 9th placing in his Talbot Sunbeam, and he was also one of the few to take the hairpin properly. Simon Davison in the Nissan 240 RS used all 260 horsepower to achieve his 6th place. Harry Hockley was outside the top 10, but finished well in the diminutive Vauxhall Nova Sport. Andrew Wood took 8th place after some exciting moments throughout the event, including knocking down a gate and getting stuck in a field just 5 stages from the end. As a result, he had to settle for 3rd in Group A. But undoubtedly a superb result for Llewellyn and the Metro. He'd driven magnificently and proved beyond doubt that he's now graduated as one of Britain's brightest rally hopes of the 80s.